The help desk received an urgent message from the sales department. Some features of the sales support system used by the sales department employees had stopped working since this morning, causing significant disruption to business operations. Hey Davis, there have been a lot of inquiries to the help desk about some features of the sales support system not working. Do you have any idea what's going on? Her eyes welled up with tears, and in an almost crying voice, she replied with a desperate expression, "I have no idea what to do or how to fix this." Her demeanor afterward not only made me want to help her but also stirred up a strong desire to protect her. My name is Robert Johnson. I'm 30 years old. I work as a help desk representative in the IT department of a manufacturing company, handling various troubles and system malfunctions. Since we also accept inquiries to the help desk by email, I was going through the emails that had arrived since last night and started prioritizing the tasks to address today. Then, I heard the usual bright voice. "Good morning." Her name is Natalie Davis. She's 25 years old. We work in the same IT department but have different responsibilities, so we haven't talked much. However, I vividly remember the strong impression she made when she introduced herself to the department. "Nice to meet you. I'm Natalie Davis, and I'll be working here starting today. I've been told there's a politician with a similar name to mine, but I'm terrible at giving speeches. Please take good care of me. Oh, and lately, I've been really into making small accessories using cement. If anyone is interested, please let me know." She spoke brightly with a smile, her cheeks flushed, clearly nervous. Natalie Davis, cement accessories. What an interesting girl. A memorable name and a unique hobby. I bet most of the employees there instantly remembered her as the new employee with too much character upon first meeting her. Before I knew it, 3 years had passed since she joined the department. Her appearance is nothing special, just ordinary, but her energy and cheerfulness still bring a good atmosphere to the department even after 3 years. The usual inquiries to the help desk are mostly basic support such as password resets, shared folder settings, and dealing with computer malfunctions. However, there are also technical issues with internal systems that are too much for us to handle. In such cases, we explain the situation to the person in charge of operating each system and hand over the response. It may sound simple, but before handing it over, we have to narrow down the cause by asking questions like, what steps did you take when the problem occurred? Is this a recurring issue? Does this only happen on that particular computer? So it takes a surprising amount of effort. The department head often points out that our response is slow, but I don't think just quickly resolving the issue is all there is to the job. From a professional standpoint, I believe this is an important aspect that cannot be compromised. I remind myself that it's most important to deal with issues reliably and prevent the same problems from recurring, enduring the department head's criticisms and sarcasm. About 30 minutes after the start of the workday, an urgent message from the sales department came into the help desk. Usually, there's at least a little quiet time, but today there was no such luxury. As soon as one call came in, another phone would ring immediately. Some features of the sales support system used by the sales department employees had stopped working since this morning, causing significant disruption to business operations. This wasn't just one or two people. Almost simultaneous reports with the same content were coming in from each branch. They explained the situation in a voice that couldn't hide their impatience. The sales support system is an extremely important tool for conducting sales activities, such as recording the contents of negotiations with customers and the success or failure of deals, simulating how far they have progressed toward the target sales budget and which customer cases they should acquire to achieve it, and even generating reports on the number of sales cases and closing rates. The system going down literally means that sales activities will stagnate. What could be heard over the phone were escalating reports of problems and the accompanying tense atmosphere. And it seems that the sales department head directly complained to our IT department head about this issue. As soon as the department head hung up the phone, he came straight to my desk, explained the gravity of the situation once again, and instructed me to respond promptly. A heavy atmosphere hung over the help desk staff. It's always a high-pressure job, but honestly, troubles that directly affect the company's performance like this are a huge burden. The department head's face clearly showed more tension than usual, and just seeing his expression made my chest feel heavy too. There's no time for the help desk to narrow down the cause. I instructed the help desk members to email the relevant parties that a failure had occurred in the sales support system. At the same time, I made the decision to explain the situation to the person in charge of operating the sales support system. The person in charge is within the same IT department. Their seats are relatively close, but it's often smoother to explain things while sharing screens online. So recently, we've been communicating almost exclusively through online calls. After confirming with the person in charge that we could have a call about the sales support system, I initiated the call. Hey Davis, there have been a lot of inquiries to the help desk about some features of the sales support system not working. Do you have any idea what's going on? That's right. The person in charge of operating the sales support system is Natalie Davis, who always greets with a cheerful voice. The reason this young woman became the person in charge of operations is that, due to pressure from the accounting department to reduce costs, the system operation and maintenance work that had been outsourced to an external vendor was now being handled in-house. It's what they call insourcing, and while it reduces costs, it places a heavy burden on the employees. What, really? I'm not aware of doing any particular work on it. Which functions are affected? She responded, sounding surprised. I shared my screen online, and I explained to Davis the functions that have been inquired about. It's true, they're not working, but I haven't made any changes to these functions. Anyway, the help desk phones are ringing off the hook right now, so could you please check the situation on your end for now? I'll let you know when we've confirmed the situation here too. Okay, I'll check the situation for now. With that, we ended the call. Thanks in part to sending out an email to the relevant parties about the malfunction. Inquiries to the help desk had settled down. I headed to Davis's desk to check on the situation. She was desperately flipping through the pages of the manual at her desk, trying to find some clue, but her face was gradually turning pale. The usual liveliness around her had been replaced by a deathly silence, and her impatience was palpable to those around her. When I asked, "Is there anything I can help with?" she replied with teary eyes and an almost crying voice, "I have no idea what to do. The operation procedure document and manual that I took over from the external vendor 3 months ago don't say anything about this, and I don't know what to do." Her expression one of despair. Gone was her usual energetic demeanor, replaced instead by anxiety and confusion enveloping her. With the situation showing no signs of improvement, the department head approached her desk. Since she still hadn't been able to identify the cause of the system malfunction, her impatience was evident on her face. With each heavy footstep of the department head, I could see her shoulders tensing up bit by bit. "Hey, have you figured out the cause? Hurry up," the department head's voice urged her on. At the sound of his voice, her body trembled and her hands stopped for a moment. Her eyes were filled with unease. Seeing this, I felt I had to do something. "Department head, we're doing our best to identify the cause right now. Please give us a little more time," I calmly explained to the department head. The department head frowned for a moment, but seemed to understand my words, saying, "All right, but this is an emergency and we don't have time. Get results quickly." Before hurriedly leaving the scene, she showed a slightly relieved expression, took a deep breath, and turned back to the keyboard. Watching the trouble she was facing, my own past suddenly flashed through my mind. That anxious expression of hers, the way she was at a loss as to where to start. This was exactly how I used to be. When I was a newbie, I also faced major system failures like this and had many sleepless nights not knowing how to deal with them. Seeing her like that, a strong emotion welled up in me, not just to help her, but to protect her. Actually, in my previous job, I had obtained a certification for the sales support system and had experience in its development and maintenance. In my previous job, I was in charge of development and maintenance, including the sales support system. But as I progressed with the work, I began to think that I wanted to work in a more direct way to help people, not just solve technical problems. That's when I learned that the company I'm at now was recruiting help desk staff, so I applied. When I joined the company, I explained my certification to the department head, but since an external vendor was operating the sales support system at the time, there was no particular shortage of personnel, and I was assigned to the help desk as I had hoped. I'm probably the only one in the IT department of this company who has this certification. If there was someone with the certification, they would have surely been promoted to be in charge of operating the sales support system by now. I was confident that my certification and experience could now help her. Davis, it's okay. Calm down. Let's handle this together. I told the department head when I joined the company, but I have a certification for this system and was in charge of its development and maintenance in my previous job. I think I can be of some help. Really. Having someone so knowledgeable helping me is reassuring. Please, I'd really appreciate your help. With that, I reconfirmed a few things with her. I see. The operation procedure document doesn't seem to have detailed information, but I think the automatic version upgrade is probably the cause. Automatic version upgrade. Come to think of it, I seem to recall being told verbally that there's something like that every few months. But I wasn't told the procedure. The sales support system is what's called a cloud service provided over the internet, and the company providing the system is supposed to perform version upgrades periodically. Normally, before a version upgrade, the administrator at our company should receive an email notifying them of the date, time, and details of the changes, but it seems that the change of the person in charge was overlooked when the external vendor handed over the reins. I just searched online, and it looks like yesterday was the day for the automatic version upgrade. The functions that stopped working this time were also listed as having specification changes. The way to deal with it is also written. So let's try doing it according to this. But before that, there was something I had to do before taking this action. I hurried to a certain person's desk. Department head, sorry to bother you when you're busy. Do you have a moment? What, is the response already finished? He must be getting hurried by the sales department too. The department head has been irritated all day. No, before that, I have a favor to ask you. Is it all right if I use the administrator privileges for the sales support system? I have a certification for the sales support system and experience using it. If I have administrator privileges, I can respond to this issue more quickly. I'll have Davis watch over my work next to me, so please let me use them. Normally, the administrator privileges for a system are to be used by the person in charge of operations, not by a help desk staff member like me. However, in this emergency situation, it's clearly faster for me to handle it rather than instructing Davis, who is unfamiliar with the work, as we go along. The department head thought for a bit and then agreed, all right, I understand. I'll allow it. But record all the steps. We'll need to review it later. I was relieved to get permission. Following the instructions listed online, I made changes to the settings in the test environment and repeated the tests. As soon as I changed a setting, Davis would check the system operation. We checked each other to make sure there were no omissions in the test contents. It was a moment when I could clearly feel that we were combining our strengths. As the test environment operation check proceeded without issue, I could see her expression gradually brightening. Okay, the tests seem to be fine. Shall we change the settings in the production environment then? Yes, please go ahead. I performed the same steps in the production environment that I had done in the test environment and checked the operation in the production environment. Davis was staring at the screen with her hands clasped together as if in prayer. We did it. It's working. Thanks to you, Johnson. Thank you so much. When the system started operating normally again, Davis let out a sigh of relief and expressed her deep gratitude. Her eyes shone with tears of gratitude, and I instructed the help desk members to notify the relevant parties that the system had been restored. And with that, I went to the department head again. Department head, sorry to keep you waiting. This system has been restored to normal operation and we've finished notifying the relevant parties. Is that so? Good job. So, did you figure out the cause this time? A look of relief appeared on the face of the department head, who had been furrowing his brow all day with tension and irritation, and there was a relieved tone in his voice. Yes. The cause this time was the regular automatic version upgrade of the sales support system. Normally, an email arrives to the administrator before a version upgrade. It should have arrived to you, department head, but the department head had an expression on his face as if a question mark was floating above his head. Huh? Why is it set up to come to me and not Davis? The department head's voice was puzzled. It's probably an oversight in the process of changing the person in charge. It would have been good if you had noticed that email, department head. I said it a bit mischievously. Ah, that's right. So, is the change of the person in charge finished too? The department head asked me for confirmation while wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief he had taken out. Yes. I changed it to Davis, so I don't think there will be any problems next time. Before I knew it, the clock had passed noon. When the work had settled down, Davis and I stood together by the office window, looking outside and talking for a little while. At that time, she said to me again with her usual smile, "Johnson, thank you so much for today. I don't think I could have solved it on my own." That smile of hers left such an impression on me that I was momentarily at a loss for words. In that instant, I realized that I was beginning to deeply think of her as more than just a colleague. Since that day, I feel like our relationship has gradually begun to change. We've had more opportunities to talk and have come to want to know more about each other. Also, after resolving the sales support system trouble, it feels like the atmosphere in the entire department has changed. Especially with the department head, there was a noticeable change. It started the next morning when the department head stopped me at the meeting. With a gentler expression than usual, the department head said, "Johnson, you handled that matter well. I've reevaluated my view of your work." I never imagined that the department head, who had been harshly critical of my slow responses, would appreciate my work. I decided to take the plunge and tell the department head what I had been thinking all this time. "Thank you, department head. Since we have this opportunity, please allow me to discuss various matters. The reason the help desk receives so many inquiries is because there are issues with the quality of our internal systems. The help desk does indeed take time to respond, but that's not simply because we're slow, but because we're handling each problem more carefully and reliably. This recent issue also occurred because we terminated the external vendor due to insourcing. I think we need to further improve the technical skills of our employees and strengthen our structure." After hearing the proposal, the department head thought for a bit and then responded, "That's true. Johnson, could you present the issues with the internal systems as seen by you and the help desk members at the next meeting? From there, let's all discuss initiatives to improve overall quality." Although I was worried that I might have been a bit too harsh, the department head's reaction was unexpectedly positive. He took my opinion head-on and gave me forward-looking feedback. Up until now, I rarely offered opinions or proposals directly to the department head. I had been avoiding making proposals to the department head, who was always rushing me, saying your response is slow. Even though the department head was someone who would properly accept opinions if I spoke up, I regretted not actively talking to him until now. I decided to fearlessly propose even the smallest ideas going forward. As efforts to improve the technical skills of employees and the quality of internal systems progressed, Davis started relying on me to learn various ways to handle the sales support system. Having overcome her first major problem, her motivation to improve her own skills had grown even stronger. She had memorized the contents of the operation manual, but I told her that alone was insufficient. What's written in the operation manual is just the basics, but in reality, there are more problems that aren't covered in the manual. That's why you also need to learn how to find information on your own and solve problems, I advised her. Thanks to the increased conversation with her, I had become able to speak to her frankly. Hearing my advice, she began showing an attitude of learning proactively, such as actively researching external materials and asking questions on online forums. Seeing her like that, I became increasingly attracted to her sincere and diligent attitude. She wasn't just waiting for instructions, but had the enthusiasm to actively learn and grow on her own. Even when faced with problems, she never gave up and kept putting in effort until she found a solution. This was stimulating for me too and provided a rewarding teaching experience. 3 months passed, and Davis and I were preparing for the next big event, the regular version upgrade of the sales support system. Having overcome problems and gained experience, we carefully executed each step to smoothly carry out this version upgrade. We checked the details of the specification changes and conducted preliminary tests in the test environment. This time, the specification changes were minor, and there didn't seem to be any issues. On the day of the version upgrade, everything proceeded according to plan. The system was successfully updated to the new version, and it was confirmed that everything was functioning normally in the production environment. At that moment, Davis and I exchanged relieved smiles. To celebrate the day's success, I invited Davis out to dinner. I thought it was a good opportunity for us to rejoice in each other's efforts now that our collaborative work had settled down. As the night had fully set in and the city lights dimly illuminated the streets, we made our way to a nearby bar. The interior was enveloped in warm light, and lively laughter filled the air. She usually said she couldn't hold her liquor well, but tonight seemed special, and she emptied glass after glass. As the meal progressed, her demeanor gradually changed. Her cheeks turned red, and her words became a bit slurred. Although I became worried, I was put at ease by her bright and happy appearance. In the midst of that, she suddenly took out a small package and handed it to me. "Please open this." There was an excited tone in her voice. I received the package she handed me and gently unwrapped the paper. What emerged from inside was a round object that I thought was just a plate. A plate? No, it's not. It's a trinket tray. "This is my first time giving a gift to someone, but I made it out of cement for you, Johnson." She said that bashfully and began talking about the creation process. "To get this shape, I made prototypes over and over, and then finally decided this was the best one." Upon closer look, the trinket tray had Johnson written on it in Roman letters. Sharing her hobby and being the only one to know her secret made my heart race a little. I was truly grateful for her work, filled with enthusiasm and passion. However, she eventually got so drunk that she couldn't even stand up, so I decided to support her and leave the restaurant. I put her in a taxi, and as we made our way to her house, she pressed her forehead against the window a little. The coolness from the cold night window might ease her drunkenness a bit. As the light from the street lamps flowed by, she smiled softly and spoke quietly. I got drunk. I'm sorry for getting so wasted. I was having so much fun talking with you, Johnson. I ended up drinking too much. I'm sorry for causing you so much trouble." Her voice contained a bit of embarrassed, lovely regret. That demeanor was indescribably adorable, and I let the words slip out. "It's no trouble at all. You're cute." Then, in her tipsy state, she said in a slightly spoiled voice, "That's no good, Johnson. Saying that when I'm drunk. Please say it again when I'm sober." Those words deeply remained in my heart, and I just silently gazed at her. That night, we parted ways like that, and I headed home alone. But even after getting home and during work the next day, her words, "Please say it again when I'm sober," kept going around in my head, and I couldn't concentrate at all. I was thinking about the meaning behind her words and my feelings for her herself. At that moment, a message arrived on my smartphone. It was from Davis. Her message said, "I'm sorry for causing you trouble yesterday. Please let me apologize properly after work." When the end of the workday came, we gathered in the conference room we had agreed on beforehand. The room was silent, and the soft light of dusk poured in through the windows from outside. We closed the door to the conference room and were alone, the room filled with tension and anticipation. The one to break the ice first was her. I'm sorry for getting too drunk yesterday. I didn't say anything weird, did I?" She seemed a bit nervous, but I looked into her eyes and resolved to confess just as she had said last night. "Davis, you were so cute yesterday. I'll say it again. I like you. Not just in the heat of drunkenness, but I seriously want to be with you." I conveyed my heartfelt feelings. Hearing those words, she was at a loss for words for a moment, but soon a gentle smile spread across her face. "Johnson, me too. When you said that to me on the way home yesterday, I was really happy. I like you too." It seemed she remembered what happened yesterday. The tension in the conference room dissipated all at once, and we confirmed each other's feelings. From then on, we became a couple bound by a deep bond beyond just colleagues, and our days became even more enjoyable. The time I spent with her adds new color to my life. Time passed, and several years had gone by since our first encounter. The technical skills of the IT department employees had improved, and the quality of the internal systems had been enhanced. Each system now had at least 2 people in charge of operations, and inquiries to the help desk had decreased. It was on a cool autumn afternoon in the park where we had our first date. The trees were dyed in colorful autumn leaves, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. We walked slowly along the nostalgic path, Holding hands, we sat down on a bench in the park, and I took a deep breath before taking a small box out of my pocket. As Davis's eyes widened, I got down on one knee and quietly wove my words, "Natalie, the days I've been able to spend with you so far have been my greatest happiness. Will you stay with me forever?" And when I opened that small box, a shining ring appeared from inside. At that moment, tears overflowed from Natalie's eyes, and she nodded without a word. In the entryway of our home, there is a small plate with a motif of the rings we exchanged at our wedding. That plate engraved with the date of our wedding and our names is a memento Natalie and I made together out of cement. We plan to make a new plate again next year when our child is born.